Hey everybody, welcome back to the vlog. Thank you so much for joining me for tea time once again. Today we have some Lapsang tea. This is just good. It's got that smokiness to it. I love this stuff. This is good. Really clean, really nice. I hope you're hanging out with me this morning with your cup of tea or maybe some coffee, just chilling out, relaxing, talking tech, talking photography, videography, whatever it is. So today we're going to be talking about the new Olympus E-M5 Mark III. So that's going to be coming out, I believe it's November, not too long from now. And they talked about, Olympus was talking about the release and what's in it and what's new, what's different between the Mark II to the Mark III. It's a nice camera. It's a nice camera. And I want to get into a little bit about the camera and about, in general, Micro Four Thirds. So let's kind of delve into it a little bit and just do a comparison between the Mark II and the Mark III. The Mark II gave you 16 megapixels, whereas the Mark III will be a 20 megapixel sensor. So it's slightly bigger. I believe it was right around 4,600 wide on the old version. The new one is like 5,200 wide, give or take. Also, it's going to be shooting 200 to the 25,600, the exact same ISO from the old sensor to the new sensor. Nothing really changed. What did change was the amount of autofocus points went from 81 to 121, which is nice. Grabbing an extra 40 autofocus points should be a little bit of an improvement. That is really nice. Also, the maximum shutter speed went from a 1/16,000th of a second to a 32,000th of a second. Of course, that is in electronic shutter mode. The viewfinder between the two is basically the same. The back panel on the two, the Mark II and the Mark III, are the same. What did change also was the 1080p. We're able to now capture at 120 frames per second in comparison to the Mark II only being 60 frames per second. So you are getting a lot more ability to be able to capture that slow motion. A lot of people really like slow motion these days, and 120 frames per second is really a good number to be at. Now, 4K is now available on the Mark III where it wasn't available on the Mark II. So you are getting 4K at 24 and I think 30 frames per second. The connectivity remained the same at USB 2.0. Why? I don't know. Some manufacturers, as we've talked about in the last couple of weeks, are getting it. They're throwing in high-speed connectivity, even Ethernet, all right? Really fast Ethernet to be able to get that connection between the camera and your computer, or the camera and a recording device and a camera, whatever. But connectivity is very important. To see cameras that come out in basically 2020 with USB 2.0, you know, a 15-year-old architecture, whatever, it, to me, is just ridiculous. And all of the camera manufacturers are notorious for doing it. Some of them, like I said, are figuring it out. So is this an innovation or just an iteration? And in my personal opinion, I think it's an iteration. It's iterative. It's the same thing. I mean, basically what you're seeing is what you expect. You know, 4K, yeah, you would probably expect that. Maybe a little bit larger sensor, you got that. A little bit more autofocus points, yeah. 120 frames per second compared to 60 frames per second, yeah, most of them do it today. So is there really something wow here? And the answer is no. Now, where I see that to be problematic is that this is Micro Four Thirds. And I've told you that I think Micro Four Thirds is dying on the vine. It's going away with the dodo bird. It's also going away with the dinosaur. Okay, I've said this over and over. And many of you have come back, listen, it's a travel camera, okay? And we want something small. We want something lightweight that still does an awesome job. Now, the pictures that I've seen come out of this camera are phenomenal. I mean, they look amazing. They're detailed, they're crisp, they look fantastic. The depth of field, if you know what you're doing, even with a Micro Four Thirds, you can get a decent depth of field. You just got to know how to shoot it. You got to know where it has its deficiencies so that you can kind of get around them, okay? So is the camera great? Yeah, I think so. I think the photos are unbelievable. I think they're beautiful. But where I have a problem is the price on Micro Four Thirds in comparison to APS-C and even full frame. Now, Why do I say that? Well, the old version of this is going for $900, Mark II. The new one, Mark III, is going to go for $1,200, which makes sense. But the problem is we see like a Sony A6500 sitting at $1,200, a A6600 sitting at $1,400, a new Nikon Z50, tiny guys, tiny, sitting at $850. You have a Fujifilm X-T3 at $1,300. You have a Canon RP at $1,300. Now, some people will be like, well, you know, they're larger, but they're not, guys. They're not. And all of those cameras I've just told you are APS-C besides Canon's, which is a full frame camera at the same price, $1,300. And what's even more interesting is the size. If you look at that Olympus, the Olympus is 5 inches wide. Just to give you an idea, it's 5 inches wide. The Canon RP is 5¼ inches wide. A quarter of an inch, guys, a quarter of an inch. All right, the size of a tip of an eraser on a pencil. The Fujifilm X-T3 is also 5¼ That's a quarter of an inch bigger. But then you get into cameras like the Sony 6600 and the 6500 that are 4¾ inch wide. So you're looking at it even smaller, quarter of an inch smaller than this Micro Four Third. And then, of course, you have the Nikon Z50, which is tiny. The thing is 4 inches, I think it's like 4¼ inches wide. I mean, it's literally 3/4 of an inch smaller than this Micro Four Thirds, and it's an APS-C. So the whole idea of how small these Micro Four Thirds are, I think it's just not there anymore. I think it's just nonsense. Now, some people will say, well, your lenses are going to be lighter with a Micro Four Thirds. Well, some of them are. Well, some of them aren't. I mean, I shoot a full frame camera using a plastic 50, a quick 50 by Canon, which is a 1.8 that is amazing. It costs like $90 and I love it. It just makes great artistic photos. I love it. Then we have a lens that's sitting on this Canon right now that's an APS-C, it's an 80D, and it has a pancake lens on it that is literally this thick. It's a 2.8, all right? And it's a 24 millimeter. So you can put small, lightweight lenses onto any camera. So the idea of Micro Four Thirds being just this de facto travel camera, I think is just not there anymore. I think it's not there. APS-C are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, lighter, and the sensors are bigger and the price is coming down on them. I mean, looking at a full frame RP from Canon at the same price as this camera, I just don't get it. And I think unless Olympus does what Panasonic does, I've talked to many of the executives over at Panasonic way back, 4, 5, 6 years ago. And I used to tell them, I'm like, your GH line is awesome. You've squeezed the hell out of Micro Four Thirds. I don't even know how you even do it, but you guys are doing awesome. But you're at the end. There's really not much more that you can squeeze out of these things. You really should move on. And I remember talking to the guy, I'm not going to name names, but I remember talking to one of the executives. They're like, no, Joe, you don't know what you're talking about, Joe. There's professionals coming from all over the place and jumping on board our Micro Four Thirds because it's good enough. And I'm like, are you just nuts? You just freaking nuts. All right. It's just ridiculous. And they literally believe this for years. And then finally, a couple of years back, what happened? Year and a half now, whatever it is, the S line came out. You got the S1, the S1R, H, blah, yada, yada. And now I don't hear crap from these people anymore with their Micro Four Thirds and how all the pros are going to it. That's all I hear is how all the pros are going to the S line. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you get, this is the way it is. And, I say the things that I say because of literally 2 decades of experience. Do I know everything? No. A lot of you guys are smarter than I am, but I just make statements based on what I've seen and where I think things are going. So do I think that this camera is a great camera? Yes, the pictures that I see are unbelievable. It looks great. Okay. Do I think it is a really nice iteration to the Mark II? Absolutely. Do I think they're going to sell a lot of them? Yes. But do I also think that Olympus really needs to look at Panasonic and say, you know what, maybe we need to check out a new sensor and do something new and get some fire, all right, back into the oven, because I feel like it's just stagnated. Now, we did do a video, the last video, with the BCN rankings, and we saw that Olympus is number 3, all right? Olympus is number 3 for the most mirrorless cameras sold in the world. Let's just call it. It's actually Japan, but you can definitely get a gauge for it. So you have Canon on top, then you have Sony, and you have Olympus. So Olympus is doing well, but I think that they would do a lot better if they would just move like Panasonic did. What do you guys think? Do you think Olympus should look at Panasonic and say, maybe we should get involved in this? Maybe we should move down that full frame. Okay. I mean, they came out with this mega camera that they thought that was going to be the next best thing since sliced bread for all pro, sports shooters, which was that M1X, a $3,000 Micro Four Third camera. The Olympics are coming, 2020, right around the corner. I want to see how many of those Olympus M1Xs we see in the field. I have a feeling we won't see basically none, or next to none, unless they're being paid to be there with that camera. It's just not going to happen, all right? People that are going to be shooting the Olympics are going to use a Nikon D6. They're going to be using a 1D from Canon. They might even use a Sony A9 Mark II. Not a Micro Four Thirds that Olympus put out here for $3,000. It's just not going to happen. So I really do think that Olympus is, they need to rethink what they're doing over there and possibly come out with something new, something just wow, to really get things just moving and shaking over there like Panasonic did with their S line. So anyways, that's my thoughts. That's my rant for today. I want to hear what you think. I know there's a lot of people that are going to give me flack on the whole Micro Four Thirds, but tell me why. I want to know why. Why do you think the Micro Four Thirds is a better way to go to some of these tiny APS-C cameras, but just like a Nikon Z50? Why go with that camera that is going to be the same price in comparison to something that has a larger sensor? Why? I want to know. So, if you enjoy my content, as always, throw me a big, massive thumbs up. That would be awesome. That would help the channel out a lot. And don't forget to smash that subscribe button so you can get all my content when it becomes available, and click the bell icon so when it is available, you will be notified of it. And finally, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools that I've invented for you and me over the years. And hopefully there's something there that you might like. And if there is, please pick it up and support me. That would be awesome. So anyways, I'm out of here. We'll see you in the next vlog. Many blessings to each and every one of you. Take care.